So you have to tell me like about AAU experiencing it now as a coach as opposed to when you played.
Oh man. So when I was playing AAU, it was maybe like 300 teams in California. Now there's like close to like 5,000 teams. So of course, of course the industry has risen. Multi-million-dollar business with so many people being able to still continue to create teams. And I mean, look how I just started a team, you know, with the program. And there's parents that can start teams.
I'm a coach on the team now. Like,
Right.
it's an established program, but I mean, anybody could really get out there. So it's a lot more business minded now, as opposed to before. It was kind of more of like you had to deserve and earn your way to play.
Right, definitely. Yeah, I started like playing NJB, National Junior Basketball,
NJB,
local stuff.
NJB Walnut, I think.
Right, exactly.
My first
you know,
my
I was
feet wet in basketball. Right?
exactly. So I was new to the journey, and then when I got introduced to Robert Eichhardt with you know, the BTI program, that's where it got serious. That's
and
where
you were like how old?
I was
12,
it's like 8th grade summer going into 9th grade.
Okay, so right before high school.
Right.
Got you.
Right. So that journey right there of just first not making the A team. They had an A team, a B team, and I got cut. I didn't get cut, but I made the B team. So I was kind of discouraged walking out the gym, like, you know, but Eichhardt grabbed me like, man, just keep working on your game. Come back next summer, try, don't give up. So that's what I did, and then came back and made the A team. Yeah. And that's when I was playing, you know, with Gil and Tyson and all those dudes.
Tyson Chandler.
Right. Casey Jacobson, played with the Suns a little bit overseas.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so a lot of my boys that I grew up hooping with in the AAU world, not at my high school, but just in AAU, of course, they take the best of the best, you know.
Did you get to play in were you traveling across? I know it's travel ball. Were you going across the East Coast, where it's like nationals or like different types of
definitely. I played in the Gotcho tournament with Stephon Marbury. He had a team out there. So I remember going from LAX to New York like my junior, senior year, just to those summer tournaments, just trying to get exposure, trying to get in the right place at the right time, because that's really what it comes down to.
Who was the best player that you played against in the AAU times? And maybe they didn't even make the NBA. Like, you know,
right.
Who was the, like, you know what I'm saying? Who was like the marquee like names, or was there no, like, not enough social media like we have now, right? Or rankings and all these things, or was it really like a lot of word of mouth back then?
It was a lot of word of mouth. Different tournaments, of course, you know, each organization has their rankings and stuff, but I was always told, like, don't worry about rankings. You know what I'm saying? What really matters is what you end up becoming, not how you start. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, man, back to your question, who was the most talent I've been across, played against? Man, it's tough because I played against so many talented players.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember my boy from Pasadena, Darrell Rowe. He went to John Muir High School. In the 8th grade, he was ranked like number 1 8th grader in the nation, and he always gave me problems. Because he was a shorter than me, but just explosive, confident. He's been playing way longer than me. You know, I picked up a lot just from my homies that I grew up with. Of course, Bone Collector, Speedy. You know, we call him Speedy.
Speedy, yeah. Right. So for those that don't know, we know him as Bone Collector, right? Obviously, but yeah, Speedy, right? And so let's go back to the roots right there with Pasadena, especially just kind of a hangover from Dina Day, right? From 626, June 26th. But like, talk about Pasadena. So you were talking about AAU kind of going into high school. Let's talk about like your playing career in high school, and kind of like that's really like the beginning of a lot of the
beginning of basketball for me. Yeah. Right. So I was kind of like a late bloomer. I met basketball in 5th grade at recess at Franklin Elementary School in Altadena. And from there, it went from not being good, not knowing anything about hoop, the rules. I had to kind of play against my friends and learn it. Man, I was bullied in the game. You know, he sucks, he's trash, all of that. So, you know, I tell players to this day, you got to fight through that. Right. And you got to keep going, you know. But just growing up in Pasadena, as I started getting older, taller, start evolving, the skills start coming just from not quitting. That's when I started to meet other people, of course, in the city, and started to learn about the legends before me, you know. So that's what kept me humble, kept me working. And then, man, it became a war in the city, like around, I say about like 9th grade, 10th grade. That's when Joe Ford, Mr. Horace Warmley, Horace's pops.
Right.
Those were our mentors growing up in the Pasadena community. So all the best players, no matter what school you went to, it was going down at the Fair Oaks. That's the war I'm talking about. The Fair Oaks Boys and Girls Club.
I've heard about the battles up there.
Oh man, it was Crips, Bloods from the streets that.
So it's like it was more than hoops, because you had all the kind of like, all of them involved.
Right.
They were all at the games and.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So I think my game evolved from playing against great players.
Right.
And that's why I always give credit back to my city. So many great hoopers that came out of Dina.
Like real quick, let's just kind of go for people that don't know. There's so many like legendary hoopers who came from Dina.
Oh yeah, man. From
back in the days, you can go Michael Cooper.
Right.
Probably even before that, but I mean, you can go. Right.
Yeah, from Cooper to the Jock Vons at near the Stacey Augmans. Man, Ricky Maiden. There's so many names that were before my time in high school. That I looked up to. I was inspired by. Just being a sixth, seventh grader going to high school games, and like, man, that's how it's played.
Right.
So I can't wait for me to get to high school so I can, showcase my talent. So
because we were just joking about when where you went to high school, right? Because obviously in the same city, there's so many different schools that have their own rivalries and bragging rights. And so kind of break that down, a quick little thing about Dina and the school you went to, and the time that when they were good.
Right. Nah, yeah, I'll definitely jump into that. So any hooper from Pasadena, they want to go to Mir or HS. That's the big rival in the city. Blair was kind of like, the school down south of Dina, close to South Pass, and then Marshall was like the school that like no hooper really wanted to go to. It was the smallest school, didn't have a huge basketball history. But for me, my mom was like, you don't have a choice. You're going to Marshall because I care about education. And at the time, that school was known for academics. So she was like, that's where you're going. So Coach Rocky Moore was trying to get me to go to Mir, Tuck trying to get me to go to HS, and my mom was like, no, he's going to Marshall. So that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Of course, I was discouraged, like, man, I want to, do well with my hoop career, but sometimes being a big fish in a small pond works out for you, just works out for you. So with me, I got lucky in 97 when I had some of my boys, Jason Sanford, come over from John Muir. Wasn't really playing over there and just needed a new environment. And me and him met with Speedy, like around like seventh grade. We would play in these church leagues at this church up on Lincoln in Altadena. And that's where all the talent was. And I started recruiting. I started telling my boys, at the Fair Oaks, man, let's come to Marshall, bro. I know they suck, but let's build a team, and that's what we did, man. We ended up building a squad that won 4 back-to-back Alpha League champions. And just with high school and AAU, that's where all the recruiting came. That's where the exposure, going to the ABCD camps and, 5-star and the Nike stuff, like Invitational, San Diego.
Top level.
I tell parents, like, you can put your kids in all the AAU in the world, but if you're not putting them in those exposure camps,
they're going nowhere.
I've seen it. There's millions of athletes that work so hard all year round. And all the way through from 3rd, 4th grade, even from the jump.
Right.
And they still don't get scholarships. They still don't get the exposure they need.
And because they're not putting themselves in the right, getting shined in the right light, right? And they're not putting themselves in the right, in front of the right people.
Right. And they're not with the right teams, with coaches that are well known, respected.
Yeah.
I was blessed to play for Robert Eichart because he was respected. He was a young coach at the time. Now with his program with BTI, they got like 20 teams, but we were his first team.
Right.
With Gil and all the guys and stuff, Tyson and all them. And I think that's what helped me get the exposure that I got, was playing against cats like Jason Capono at Artesia and Eichart telling me, hey, all I need you to do today is lock him down. We have 6-7 scorers on our team, but I need you to shut him down. Right. And, me shutting him down, scoring like 6 points in that game at Long Beach was a game that made college coaches say, who's this kid?
So it wasn't about you scoring that day, but you did what your coaches asked, and you actually shut down one of the guys with a name, someone with a name. Yeah. Like, real quick, going back to that point you made, like, what can you tell parents right now, right? Parents who are, or even kids, But because a lot of times, they're managed by their parents and whatnot. So like, what do parents got to do now if their kid is working their tail off? They're good, but like, what are the things they need to do to get the exposure that, because there's AAU tournaments every weekend, right? This money grab that we talked about.
Right.
There's no love or care for the game. These refs are just come picking up paychecks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot to talk about with that, with the AAU world, but kind of like, what can you tell a player right now is listening, a coach right now is like, or a parent, a player that like, I got to get, like, how can I get my child
to get that exposure? I would say to definitely do your research before you place your kid on just any AAU team. Because now with it being so many, there's it's like watered down, right? So you have to really do your research on the coach, the organization, how long they've been alive and going, and where are you, what tournaments are you playing in? Are you traveling national? Are you, because there's some schools back east that won't know about a kid from the West Coast if you don't go out there.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and you're like, oh, I was killing out here. I was averaging 30, but if you don't go and get seen, so I would tell parents, just really do your research before you place your kid on the team, and I know for a fact that will help them, and make sure that you put your kids in these exposure camps. With Google, there's no way to not find them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
We're in the age. Yeah. If you're not searching using your computer in your pocket to your advantage and finding that's kind of on you. Right?
Definitely.
So just kind of researching and understanding who are you playing for, right?
Right.
Where or what's their past and what's their success rate.
Exactly.
As well, right?
Exactly.
I mean, there's new teams all the time.
Right.
Like you said, like I can make one. We can make one right now.
Right.
Just like,
definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
How easy that is. And again, but let's talk about that a little. We'll get into that, like, where you are now. But I definitely want to like take a step back and still talk about, I guess, your playing career and exactly about, your transition from high school star, Dina, and where you took that and kind of like the journey of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. To this day, I tell all the kids that basketball doesn't just make you a great hooper. It makes you a great person. All the life skills that are implemented within the game that you're forced to kind of learn, like being on time.
It's the best teacher.
Discipline, right? The best teacher. Working with others, not just being about yourself, because you play on a team with teammates. And, man, my hoop career was filled with so many life skills that made me more of a great person than a great hooper. But back to my basketball career, like I said, from 5th grade, not being bullied, teased, kept working. 8th grade, getting better. 9th grade, making varsity at Marshall. By 10th grade, I was a starter. And then from there, my game continued to evolve because I kept on working and I stayed humble. And, people were like, man, you're getting better. And I always, my best friend's father, Buddy Burrell, rest in peace, he told me, like, let other people talk for you. You know what I'm saying? So, that's what really kept me humble, like just kill. And I remember people getting frustrated because I was that kid that nobody wanted on the team. And then my junior, senior year walking in the gym and everybody's like, D, you on our team, you on our team. And it felt good. Like, man, the work is paying off, But by my senior year, I was heavily recruited, top 20 in the state of California, shooting guards and all that stuff, all these rankings. But I still didn't care about it. I was like, man, I'm doing what I love. I fell in love with the game. And that's what I tell players, like, you got to fall in love. Don't come train with me just because, your parents want you to do this. You have to want to do it, And my mom didn't force me. I fell in love. I told her about the game. So it paid off, man. My senior year, I ended up winning the award, San Gabriel Valley Player of the Year in 2000, and was heavily recruited, offered by USC, UCLA, like over 20 colleges for sure. I ended up signing with NAI Cal Baptist because they gave me the biggest scholarship, a 5-year full ride. Dope. And, that's the opportunity.
Like you said earlier, Mom said education was, key.
Yes.
So if they're going to give you that, then that was the best choice.
Right.
Got you.
Yeah, I stress education to the athletes because, like, what it did for me, giving me a whole extra year, a whole extra $100,000 to go towards my college, education, man,
that's huge.
Yeah, everything paid for, and it really pays to have good grades. I know it sounds like corny cliche, but college coaches are like, okay, you can have all the talent in the world, but you represent our university that you're coming to. So am I going to waste a $400,000 scholarship on a player who has the talent, but he can't get it done, in the classroom? So you have to have the whole package, and that's something that I think helped me with just getting recruited over other great athletes was because some people come partial, like you got the game but not the grades, you know. But when you have a whole package, great attitude, you're a hard worker, college coaches are gonna, you know, they're gonna open their eyes to that.
And that's the beauty, like the messages that you preach, because, you know, fast forward a quick thought is that, you know, with BWC, right? Because we care. It's a program you started, founded, and that's one of the things, and I've had the blessing, the honor, you know what I'm saying, to assist,
yeah, part of the village,
assist, right, a part of the family, whenever we can, and you know, it's bigger than hoops. There's always moments where you're shedding light and giving them, you know what I'm saying, more than like, this is how you do a jab step,
right?
You know, which is important, right, in the game. But and that's one of the things that is really, really like, probably you've taken that and been able to give to these kids, you know what I'm saying, in your program,
right?
But I mean, it goes a long way, and you did that in high school. You fell in love with the game. You got to college, and then from there, you know, you had a playing career overseas,
right,
in Romania,
in Romania,
and you know, tell us a little bit about that experience, that journey. You know, anything like the biggest things you take away that you can kind of like share with, you know what I'm saying, like
definitely
that you kind of you share with the kids.
Yeah. So after Cal Baptist, I transferred over to APU, played there because it didn't work out my freshman year, and then got blessed to go over to Romania and play. And when I got out there, it was all about hoop, of course. You're like, man, I get to travel and get out the country and go to another country and play. But it was such a humbling experience because of the country being third world. And, you know, I took all my nice clothes out there, thought I was going to be trying to look cool. And you get out there, and it's poverty, right? You know, in Kaluj, where the arena was, it was like that's like the Hollywood over there. But all the cities around it were just struggling families. You know, so it humbled me as an you know, being American. Like, man, like you need to be grateful for every single thing you have. And we complain about so much, but we're so spoiled as Americans. Like, we don't even realize it sometimes until you leave and you go somewhere else. So that's it. Just humbled me even more. You know?
Yeah, I stress that just to anyone when I give advice. Not even basketball, just in general. Like, you got to leave hometown. You got to leave. You got to travel. You got to go overseas. You got to see if you have the ability to.
Right.
Like, I urge anybody to do that because of the perspectives that you get.
Oh man, you learn so much. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So how many years did you play?
I did just 1 year. Then I tore my cartilage again. So I had 2 back-to-back.
In the knee.
Yeah, tore my medial meniscus in my right knee. So the doctors were like, you can't play on that level anymore. You can still heal up, rehab again. I had to rehab after my freshman year, switching from Cal Baptist to APU. That's when I tore my cartilage the first time. And then the second time over there, just going up for like a dunk on a fast break in practice, and just felt it when I landed. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You know, so then coming back home, falling into depression, of course, healing, you know, after a year, but I sat heavy, feeling like a failure, feeling like so many people wanted to see me win, and I failed them all, you know.
So like you kind of took that into a personal depression because you felt that you were getting that from family or friends that you should be playing right now. Is that what you're saying? Like, a
lot of the homies and stuff, my family, they love me regardless. Right. If I quit basketball, you know, earlier. But they're the ones that kept telling me, like, man, we're still proud of you, and God still has a plan for your life. My grandmother, my mother, my sister, you know. So that's what kind of kept me afloat throughout the depression, you know, kind of like, well, what is my plan? I don't see it, because now what I love most has been taken from me, and it's not fair, you know. And I feel like a lot of athletes in all sports that get injured and it ends early, like, they go through the same thing. It might not be as heavy. Right. Everyone's different, but they definitely have that same battle, you know. And it's an internal battle that you have to, like, fight daily, you know. So, but I was able to fight through it, and you know, I went straight into the mental health field after college. So,
you know, I'm really happy you brought that up, because I was going to ask. And so I think that's such an awesome kind of a beautiful way to that you talk, like you fought through it, and from there it kind of was like, you know what, this is kind of a new life journey for me to get into the profession. So, like, speak on that, man. Like, what, you know, in terms of the depression you felt, because I know a lot of athletes can relate to that, right? Even you know, even athletes who but that they got hurt, but like, let's take this COVID year. Right. They lost a year of playing. Right. You know, there was high school kids who didn't get to play their senior year. And, exactly. And that, I know some kids who went into a deep, dark place because they're just like,
right.
Man. So, like, how can you relate? Like, what can you share about the way that you kind of picked yourself up, or ways that depression kind of like with sports being removed from your life?
Yeah.
Like, what are some things that can help you get through that?
Man, I think just feeding yourself just positive words, reminding yourself like that it's okay, that, you know, God still has a plan for your life. I know everyone's not spiritual, but me personally, like my foundation was laid from childhood. So I was always able to kind of refer back to that, like, you know, like just trusting and believing, you know, that something is meant for me to do out here in this world.
For sure. And that's why we're friends, because you're like my pastor. Sometimes I need a word, I'm gonna just call you.
Oh, man.
And be like, yo, just
you know,
give me some words right now.
It's so funny because my uncle just actually texted me.
Yeah.
He's a pastor in Bakersfield, where I was
Right.
born, and he just texted me like a month ago and said, man, you're called to preach. Just a random text. Like, and I told him, like, love you, uncle. Man, I preach every day to so many people, because it might not be in the church, but just helping others is what I love doing. And it all sums up to what God wants us all to do for each other.
Right.
So that's what, you know, gives me my purpose. And that's what made me even, you know, build BWC. So,
yeah. And you know, so like from kind of fighting through depression and getting through, how did you get into the mental health field? Like what through, like, put you into that space? So mentally, like, how did you pick yourself up and want to tackle that?
You know, it's crazy because I have a 19-year-old daughter now, trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life. And I was there. Usually when kids go to college, parents want them to, you know, I want you to major in this, I want you to major in that, you know. But, you know, I remember my counselor asked me my freshman year, like, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? And I said, well, I like art. Okay, we have all these art majors. And then he was like, what else do you like to do? And I said, I like working with kids. And he was like, oh man, we have the you know, psychology field, the sociology. So I picked graphic design and sociology. I was a double major. So I got like most of my units with graphic design, but didn't complete everything to finish, get my degree in that. I kind of walked away from that my junior year and focused more on the soc. So with getting a degree in sociology and just mentors that I grew up with that were kind of guiding me, Joe Ford from Pasadena, he worked at this foster agency in Pasadena. So that's where I gave him a buzz and said, yo, man, I got my degree. I'm trying to get a job, just being a normal human, you know, just trying to figure out the next step. You know, you did this part, now what are you going to do? And I went into the mental health field, working with foster kids all over LA County. And I started my career in the girls' group home, so that was tough. Working with teenage girls.
Yeah, I've heard the stories that you've shared. I mean, there's so much that you've got to deal with, right? There's so much trauma in these situations. And so working with them, like, are you still in that career field now? Are you still like in that right now?
Yeah. So I actually walked away to go full time with BWC and thought I was done with working with kids and, you know, mental health and stuff after 15 years. And then, you know, my buddy Randall with Shoes for Grades, he hit me up. Shout out to Randall. Yeah, definitely. That's my guy. And asked me to be the program director for Shoes for Grades mentorship program. Gotcha. And we actually just started that up last week with my first client. So that's going to build. Congrats, man. Right, man. Yes. I'm like, dang, I thought I was done, but, you know, God was like, no.
It's going to, you know, God lays a foundation for us at times. And as much as you want to kind of veer off, right, and do something else, right, it doesn't feel like something always pulls you right back, right? Like, you know, this is you're like living in your purpose. Right?
Definitely.
And there's times when we try to fight that urge, and then it's like, or like, oh, I want to do something else, but it's what you're calling, right? It's what you're here for.
Yeah, when you understand your calling and your purpose, you know, that's when it just gives you a peace, and you kind of know, like, I'm gonna put my all into this, you know. And I was that broken kid, grew up without a father. I had a great stepfather. My father was like an in and out dad, my bio father. So I didn't really know when I was gonna see him, you know. And just growing up, just having different issues and experiencing trauma. And I didn't even really know what that word meant until I got to school, until I started getting educated and then going into the field and working with others. It started making me kind of look in the mirror at myself and my upbringing, you know, and it kind of helped me grow and evolve as a person. So, which empowered me to be able to help others get through it, you know. So sometimes, you know, me and my wife always talk about it like, a lot of people want to be a teacher all the time and tell others what they think their opinion is, or versus sometimes you got to stay humble and be a student and listen, because listening is like the greatest asset you could give back to the world, right? Like when you listen, you can learn so much, and when you listen to other kids talk, working in mental health, there's a lot of professionals have their master's degrees and they're like, no, you listen to me. But for me, I think what made me succeed with never really having issues with my clients was I was a great listener. So I came in knocking on doors all over LA County saying, I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to offer suggestions and help you, with whatever struggles you're having. I'm not passing any judgment. I'm just here to give love. And when you tell somebody that and then you show it by your actions, you can really crack open a stone wall, yeah, man. So that was 15 years of that. And now I'm back going again, getting ready to fill back up with clients. So
there it is.
Yeah,
there it is. That's huge, man. I think that's godly work. That's very just noble. And we need more of that. We need more awareness for that there's a lot of kids, even if they're not going through that type of stuff, even ones in some of the kids you might even have in BWC in a prototypical, a good, structured home or whatever. I feel like there's times we have kids that come through and there's still some help you got to give them, right?
Oh, for sure.
And let's talk more about that, because I'm a huge fan, and obviously I've supported and heard the vision before it was even, it came to fruition, right? It was like,
there from the jump.
You know what I mean? We would have these conversations like, hey, I want to start up this, program. This is like the vision I have. This is the house I want to build, and that's what was so amazing, because, I've seen, like real quick, Jadina Day, just yesterday, right? Little Asher came by, and I was like, man, I seen you when you were
tiny,
like barely at my hip, you know what I mean? And now he's up there and he's playing. But with Because We Care, with BWC, kind of share a little bit of the vision even prior to where it is now, and how the steps you took and really its growth and its story, because it's such an inspiring one. And anybody who asks me, what program should I play in? Kind of back to your question my question about, who should you play for? And you're like, do your research on these people.
Right.
Everybody I says, you gotta you gotta hit up, Coach Mackey, you know what I mean? Deverion Mackey with BWC. So
I appreciate the love, bro.
Come on, man. It's a beautiful place. It's a village, like you say, but really speak on that and give us the vision. And give us kind of where it's at right now, because it's such an no worries. It's such an important thing in your life, but also for these kids, man.
Right. So so Because We Care came in a vision in my dream. I didn't know what God was trying to show me. I just remember seeing a big building with Because We Care on it, and I felt His presence next to me. I was trying to look to see what He looks like, because I knew it was God. I'm like, I want to see your face. But He wouldn't even allow the energy to even let me go that way. And He kept me just looking forward. And it was just a statue right there with an adult hand grabbing a hand of a youth. And it said, Because We Care in the building. And, I think my dream switched. And then I just woke up and I'm like, but it was so powerful. And I sat on it for so many years. Like, what am I supposed to do with that?
So what age did you have that vision?
So this was about 14 years ago. Okay. And then for 10 years, I sat just talking about it, and sometimes we do that. We sit there and we have great ideas, visions, and we just sit there and talk about it instead of strategizing, executing, right? Yeah. So, to speed up 10 years of talking, and then my cousin graduates from Howard University in DC, and I'm honored to see President Obama speak at the commencement, and he was like, let me talk to my people for a minute. It's predominantly all Black crowd, and he was like, we have the greatest gifts, the greatest ideas, but we stop right there and we forget to do 3 things. You got to strategize a plan, you have to write it down, and then you have to execute. And I'm sitting there at the graduation like, damn, he talking to me, because I've been just talking about it. And eye contact. Yeah, and I remember going back home and really taking a notepad and Because We Care, creating a mission and just what does it look like, you know, and, you know, people always say, write it down, and we don't like to really write stuff. You know, we get that lazy mentality, but, I'm happy I did. And then I was able to connect the dots and understand my calling and purpose. Like, how can I take my basketball career plus mental health and bring it all together? You know, and that's what kind of just pushed me to start BWC. You know, I was like, I want to create this atmosphere and teach kids the game of basketball, because I had so many coaches and mentors and people's fathers just working with me and giving me that support and empowering me. And I feel selfish if I don't share that with these other kids, you know, and just being patient with the journey and tracking progress, which I learned in mental health is, you know, you got to track progress. You can't expect people to be perfect, you know, and I think that's what gives me the patience with the village of kids that we train. It's like, I'm okay with having those kids that keep losing the ball, you know, a lot of trainers would rather get kids that are older, that can go. So it makes your job a little easier. You can just say, hey, in and out between, pull up right there, versus a kid that's like, huh?
That's where the work is.
Right.
That's where you have to put in the extra work and the care and the mental, and like really give them and feed them proper things, because you're right. Like, they're the ones that either they never dribble the ball, or you know, even worse, just kind of have issues, whether it's, you know what I'm saying, personal or at home or whatever. And they're coming into these practices and it's like, they're just kind of like, what am I doing here? I don't want to be here. And sometimes, a lot of the times, we get kids who are, I hate to say it, but forced to be in these hour practices, and you got to break that down, right? So
parents are always like, you know, I got to get my kid in something.
You
know, piano lessons, music,
something,
sports, something.
Like, let's see if this works. Maybe it's basketball, maybe it's like sports, but like, you know, I think that's, I think that's huge, right? Like, in terms of you having a vision and then actually executing it. And so I think that's a good thing. Like, even now, right? Like you said about writing it down. I mean, we have smartphones now, right? Just turn on notes. Start a little, you know, fake email and just start typing it, or voice text it, voice message yourself. Like, I started to do that more so just to get back to the like the execution part. Because if it's just here and you just converse about it, it's a start, but you got to start putting stuff down.
Oh, for sure. You know, so, you know, as the years evolved, I remember just starting with like 2 kids, you know, my son and my friend's son. And, you know, it just
like, hey, I got this gym, come through.
You know,
let's
and it's hard when you first start a business, because you doubt a lot. What if I don't get a gym? What if I don't get kids? What if, you know, parents don't believe in me? Like, you know, the devil could feed your head so many negative thoughts.
Start talking to yourself, talking down upon yourself.
Beat yourself up. So many of us do that. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have to fight that adversity every single day, not just some days.
Yeah.
It's a constant battle for all of us, you know. And I'm just happy that I kept going. I told myself, whether 1 shows up or 100 show up, I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
You know, and I just stuck with that, and going through the adversities of getting gym time, then losing gym time, having to find another gym, and, you know, just it's just everyday adversity that I had to keep on fighting through and not quit. You know,
so like, we started with 2 kids, right? We started with 2, 5
to 12.
Then you're hitting me like, hey, Kev, I think I got like 15 coming up. Some days it'd be like 8.
Yeah.
And then I just remember there was a time when we were coming in on Fridays, and it'd be wall to wall, like not even enough space for the kids to go arm. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're running into each other, and it was like, okay, I think this is outgrowing its own. You know what I'm saying? So it was a beautiful thing, because we saw it.
Definitely.
Grow, and it was just like the passion you kept putting into it.
Yeah, and I think the being consistent, and you know, parents, you know, of course, when they put their kid in any type of like community organization, or, you know, they're going to be watching you as a leader, and who are you, and how do you talk to my kids? How do you approach my kids? You know, and I've always been mindful of that because of being a professional working in mental health, and to be honest, I was just being who I am. You know, and I love the youth, you know, and I remember being that kid, and that wasn't good, you know, but I think having the mentors come and be a part of it, because, you know, I could have named it Deverion Mackey Elite Basketball Training, you know, if you want to go D1, come to me, you know, and
look at my resume, look where I've
you know,
been.
And you know, the whole vision was because we care. So that's a village of people that care, take time out their life to come and pour back to the lives of others. And, you know, I didn't want it to be about me, because it's like, my career is over. You know, I've already been famous and papers and all that stuff. And, you know, to be honest, I'd rather be just the dude in the back, just chilling. I love that. But with the village, man, having the mentorship and multiple human beings pouring in their souls to these kids, and the center court at the end of every camp that we do, that we were doing those days at Wilson, just having every coach go around and give them the opportunity to shed love and light and inspire these kids, versus me saying, hey, I'm gonna be the only one talking. I'm gonna, I knew like village is more powerful than just individual. And that's what I was so grateful when you came and said, yo, man, I love the game of basketball. Cooper's a baller, having your daughter there. Most of the fathers that came and supported the village, they all had their own, children. Yeah. And they jumped in, and it really became like a second family to all of us. For sure. And I was grateful for you guys to come. And I remember when I need a logo. And I, threw you a little vision. I mean, look, I think you got the T on right now. So definitely. So that's cool. Yeah, like, and you kind of gave me a little bit of the vision. I said, all right, well, let's put something together. Let's, you know what I'm saying? Let's brand it. But yeah, I mean, that's the fun thing. That's the fun stuff that we do. Right. But that's a cool thing, is like, that's another step of the execution part. Yeah, it's like, definitely. Make a logo, right? Make a brand, get a website. Like, just start to like, whatever vision idea you have, you got to start just kind of knocking things down. And being patient. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, you got actually a game plan. Right. It has to be with anything. It doesn't have to be with like sports. It could be with any kind of plan. Anything you want to do in life. Whatever it is you want to do. And that's something I'm trying to like, I like to, tell the kids, it's like, it's a process. It's a step at a time, just kind of get things done. But man, I think that's, it's super dope. And so like one of the unfortunate things was obviously everybody got hit, right, with COVID. So like, talk about the adversities with that and how you kind of had to, navigate through the adjustment period. Because, now it's, that's kind of in history. But I think there's still teachable moments because of the way that affected us all. Right. Mentally, financially, whatever that. Yeah, definitely mentally. I think with the pandemic, it kind of ignited a fire in so many people. Not just myself, but like, what am I going to do now? Well, sometimes when fear kicks in, you evolve into something stronger and greater, and you get more creative. When I lost the gym time because of the pandemic, it was like, oh man, now is it a wrap for my business, my program? Like, and I knew I had to get creative because parents were still hitting me up. It was kind of low for a minute because everybody was scared. Keep your kids in the house. Telling us like, hey, don't go outside, don't breathe. Yeah, it was crazy, man. I was like, what are we like? What's gonna happen next? But I knew that these kids needed an outlet, and I was aware of mental health. Mental health has been here before the pandemic. That just added on to it. It was almost like an accelerator or a flashlight, like a spotlight on. How's your home? How's your mind? How are you dealing with you? Because that's really what you were left with. And a lot of kids just sitting at home, being locked up, and just feeling, I know they were battling depression because even as adults, we're like, oh, it hit me. It hits me all the time. I mean, it's inevitable, man. Like, I think as we get older too, I feel like little pockets of depression is just very. Oh, for sure. It's part of the thing, the growth. Right. Pandemic or not. Man, no, seriously. With the pressures of whatever it is, there's so much out there for us. Right. But yeah, I mean, go ahead. No. So I just decided to get creative, man. And, I created the concrete grinds, I was like, all the gyms are closed. It's actually safer. And I was doing a little bit of research, and studies prove that, keeping the kids active was actually helping them from catching the virus, So I bought 2 courts, man, and built them and created a whole little setup outside. And I was like, if you love the game of basketball, you don't care where you're working out at or hooping at. The whole concept with, what was the name of that college JUCO show? The one that just came out on Netflix, One Chance U, or yes, One Chance Last U. Chance U, right? Like that. Last Chance U. I'm sorry. That the was team out in East LA, right? The East LA college area. Yeah, so them just going through that whole adversity, what I'm saying? It just kind of like inspired me, man. Like, honestly, it's just like you got to keep going. You got to keep, you got to keep moving for these kids. They need it, and and it saved a lot of kids, you know, and,
and
it saved myself, you know, because these kids think
it was like it was just enough. It was like it was for you too, right? Like,
seriously,
and we needed that, and I think that was such a really dope kind of like way to obviously stay active, get creative, and just keep it moving because there was people who were like longing for that. And
for sure.
Needed that time. So,
So that's where we are now. And now that things are letting up with COVID,
everything's kind of
now I'm getting back up in the gym and actually a whole new schedule starting in this upcoming week. Getting ready to start back, you know, just flowing. So I'm really grateful. I'm humble. I'm glad that it all worked out. You know, man, and just kind of just seeing where it goes, you know, you just have to be okay with sometimes not knowing, but just kind of trusting and having faith. So,
so like the evolution of BWC, man, I know you touched on it a little bit. So there's a new kind of travel ball kind of team element. Cause I remember when we first talked, you're like, you know, I don't know if I want to make a team.
Right.
Because what we talked about with AAU and how there's just so many teams, but what's your thought process and how that has evolved and why that's important at this stage?
You know, we had many conversations.
Oh man, trust me, I'm on the fence still, even now with AAU.
I know.
I mean, I'm coaching it now, and I'm like, I think fourth grade is kind of early. It's a lot of pressure for these girls or guys. You know what I mean, like, do we need to put them in these pressure situations? Like,
it's a lot of anxiety increased. Yes, for sure.
I'm having fun with it as much as I can, but it's still, I'm on the fence. There's days and moments I'm just like, I don't think this is good.
Yeah.
And I'm being super transparent, honest with you. And I'm like, you know what I'm saying? But then at the end of the day, I think, you know, we're looked at as a role model. And there's still a lot of positives that you can get from it. But
that come out of,
Yeah. So like kind of touch on that. Like why did it grow to that now?
So of course my buddy Randall was talking to me and was like, man, we should start a team. And I was like, I'm against this AAU world. You know, it's just too much. You know, and then all the studies of the wear and tear on student athletes by the time they get to high school because of overload.
They're tearing ACLs.
So many games because
Achilles
it's $1 million company.
Younger,
you know, and not to knock, you know, the people hustling in the AAU world, but for me playing AAU and not being a parent that doesn't know, like I knew because I've been through the journey. And I didn't start playing until like 8th grade summer and still got heavily recruited, top player and all, you know. So I was like, my son does not need to hop in it so early. And the reason why I created the team was really to create a local runs for the kids to play in games and keep learning, but like one game on a Saturday. But you train 2-3 times a week and then you play on Saturdays. Like that's not too much of wear and tear for these young athletes, you know, but when you put them at the maps, you put them at these big AAU tournaments, there's, you know, 9 o'clock game. I mean, you just experienced that today with your baby girl.
I'm on 3 hours sleep, but I mean, we had a lot of work and other things. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, 8 o'clock games, sometimes 3 games a day. You're traveling different gyms. You know, they're practicing 2 or 3 times a week. And if, you know, some other kids have parents that are, you know, they'll do extra trainings inside. I mean, there's some that they need it and it's great. But yeah, like I said, I'm learning it because I was a late bloomer as well. I mean, I didn't have the career, you know, like that. But I didn't really start playing basketball until middle school, right? And getting into it, and so I never played at AU, never really been around that kind of type of travel ball as youth. But I think that so I'm seeing it from a whole new perspective now. I'm a parent, now I'm a coach, you know, an assistant coach, and so you know where I can put my pieces in is just give them a little bit knowledge of the game, kind of just give them some tips on how they can be the best them at their position, right? Because everybody's not. I mean, come on, this
passing
is
on those life skills.
Yeah, it's just kind of like getting through adversity. Like for example, obviously, and this is one of the things that I have, you know, my irk or my like, you know, the parents we're intense. You know, we're yelling, we're screaming, and it affects, obviously, the referees get involved, and, you know what I mean, the kids are looking at their parents. Or parents of, you know, I mean, they're friends as parents, and it's like, it's just a very emotional thing. And so kind of taking a step back and watching, I'm like, That's when I go back and I'm like, well, I don't think this is.
And I want to speak on that for a second. Just to all the parents listening in to this podcast. I have to start with myself because I started this team and I find myself coaching my son and all these kids that I train. And, you know, having your child on the team, you know, it's tough when you're a dad coaching your son, you know, with the squad. You got to be fair. But sometimes you focus in on your own kid a little bit too much. Facts. And then you create the anxiety because, like, just last week, I'll be honest, we had a game. It was a tense game. This team beat us like twice. So, you know, we all wanted to win. All the coaches like, we got to get this game, you know.
And, new plays. Hey,
yeah, you know. And I'm, like, looking at my son like, hey, man, it's time to go to work.
Yeah.
Like, think about all the hard trainings you've been doing. Think about, you know, and not even thinking about his mental health and his the anxiety, you know, the pressure. He's 10 years old. Why am I telling him to, you know? And, I mean, he's that strong-willed kid that's like, I got you, Dad.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but
DJ's good
But kid. Then now I find myself last week, like, I think I yelled at him because we told him to run a certain play. He wasn't in the right spot. I'm like, you're lost, you know? And I yelled it loud in the gym, and you know, I think I had to apologize to him afterwards. I caught myself. At least I was able to do that.
Okay.
But like,
accountability, man. Yeah, that's a big thing for us.
But these parents, like you said, in this AAU world, is so competitive. Parents are talking about another parent's kid. Right. Now dads are like, man, don't say nothing else about my kid. Or you know what I'm saying? It gets really crazy. Right. There's been fights. There's been threats in the AAU world, you know, and it needs to get under control before it gets extremely out of control.
It's getting there.
Right.
It's getting there. I mean, obviously there's a fine line. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that I'm very much just kind of closed mouth, just big ears, just kind of watching and observing and trying to, what's the right things to say? How do we, you know what I'm saying? How do we maneuver this? How to approach it? But yeah, I think that's my biggest thing right now is what I'm learning is this last few months of kind of getting involved with the kids is that I think we put too much pressure on the kids and we have to make them love it. Because look, I didn't play till I was 6th grade. Mm-hmm. You didn't play till you were, 5th, 7th, 8th grade going into, you know what I'm saying, high school. So there's so much years. There's 3 or 4 years left. These, some of these kids are in 4th grade.
Right.
There's even 3rd grade teams.
Right.
And it's a little early to put so much pressure on them. And I think we have to kind of do a better job of creating a fun atmosphere.
Oh,
more
of
a teachable one where my biggest thing I tell Brayden and my godson or my daughter is that like you're gonna have refs not call stuff. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have refs call good calls and bad calls. We can't blame the ref because what you do with that is by us arguing all the time with the ref, like, oh, the ref is trash. Mm-hmm. The ref sucks. Right. That mentality to me is a lot like, let's just find someone to blame.
Right.
And as a life skill, it's like you never take account like, well, maybe I just didn't play well.
Accountability.
Maybe I just need to play better. Maybe this is not my game. Mm-hmm. It's just like when you wake up, have a bad day, you're like, all right, tomorrow's a better day.
Exactly.
But when we get into this habit of like, the ref sucks, the other coach sucks, or they got a 10-year-old, he's supposed to be 9. You start to find things to complain about. You find things to blame. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's a bad precedent really to set for these kids.
Oh,
and that's like my number one pet peeve right now. And I'm sitting back like,
yeah.
But you got to take the good with the bad. And,
right.
And the good is, there's times when, man, these kids just have joy and they have friendship, they have camaraderie, they have teamwork. And, coming away from a year where they didn't even have recess, they didn't even have school, they were in virtual school.
No social skills.
Yeah, they lost some of that. And so that's where it's like, you know what, I'm going to take all that shit and just, there's still like a beautiful thing.
Right.
The game that they love. But yeah, I mean, that's we
have to
balance,
constantly
man.
like remind ourselves that these kids are looking at everything us leaders are doing, whether we're a parent, coach, trainer, whatever. And, what are we role modeling for these kids, And if we're the ones snapping and, all that, these kids are picking up learned behaviors, and we got to be careful of that because these kids, they're babies, 9, 10 years old, even these 11-year-olds that are not as advanced. And, like I catch myself like, man, our mission with BWC is to inspire, teach, develop, not create anxiety, discourage, like, so
BWC,
I have to
a place for anxiety.
you got to stand behind what you stand for.
No, for sure. And I think that's super important. And I think that's the battle, right? As we're growing, as we're, getting in now, we're getting into the AAU world, so to speak. And so, that's something that I want to really touch on is like, I have my mind open to that. I have my ears kind of listening for those moments and to make them teachable. I think that's important. And that's the advice I'm trying to give. Hopefully, if you're a coach right now, a parent, if you're a player, man, if you're listening to this, like, hopefully you're in a program that's got your best interest. And
for sure.
And we can take the foot off the gas sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Let's have some fun with it, man, because it gets wild. So many sidelines, man. I'm just like, I just want to go outside.
Oh yeah,
I had to leave. I was watching the game today. I wasn't coaching. I just had to walk outside. It was just like, it's too much.
It's a little bit too much.
It's a little too much, man. But so like, with the team with BWC that you guys got going on right now, like where is it going to evolve? Like you want to like start recruiting? Like is it something that like what's the process, man? Is it just like I just want to get my kids just playing?
Right. A lot of people were hitting me up like, oh, you got a team now. You know, we saw you post the picture and you know you got a whole squad and you know we created like a 10U, 11U team because we had some kids, a group of kids that were with us throughout the pandemic and training.
Right.
And it was like, let's get them some runs because it's like, what are we training for if we can't play? So my whole thing with the whole AAU world is like, I want to make it affordable. I want to make it local so it's convenient for parents too, because now I'm being mindful of the parents versus people that are like, hey, man, we way over here, 2-hour drive. Like, you know, and I was like, I really think these kids, the most important thing right now is development, you know, and it is one thing to train. There's another thing to play in games and get the basketball IQ.
Right.
Because you could teach a kid drills all day, but if he doesn't know how to set screens, timing, move without the ball, like that stuff is learned from playing, you know. And my whole concept with creating the team was like, let's create a squad locally where we could play against other local teams and get games in. We could pay a ref $30 and really get an official game in where these kids can keep on playing and developing, but still not jump into the AAU world.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because like right now at this age, I feel like if you create the runs, you know, and you create the training like that's what's going to really benefit them the most.
Right.
You know, and, you know, so that's where my mission is. So I keep having to tell so many people like, no, I'm not jumping in the AAU world, you know, like I'm just like creating situations for these kids to keep learning, you know?
That's
so,
what's up.
yeah.
That's what's up. Yeah, like, you know, I just had this thought right now, like, you know, parents, if you were listening, you know, I'm not judging you.
Oh yeah.
I'm not talking about you specifically.
No, don't take it personal.
No, it's not. It's just it's a learning experience for all of us. But you know, man, I'm really excited about, you know, the journeys that you're on now. You know what I'm saying, and just watching you grow, man. It's super dope.
Man,
like,
I appreciate it.
You know, from kind of like getting to know you, and then you know seeing where where DJ is now, your son, and your other kids as well. But I'm just saying, like, through basketball, there's so much that village that's just kind of like it's growing.
Yeah.
And you know, we're gonna get back out there. You know
oh yeah. Oh no, like, definitely, man. I know the pandemic kind of put things on pause. You know, still training the kids and being creative, but now that things are letting back up, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm ready to kick that fire back rolling. And
you know, I think one of the big things, you know, I want you to talk a little bit about like faith. You know, and I think, you know, you touched on it earlier, you know, with having a dream or a vision, and you talk about God a lot, and in great ways, right? And how He's taught you, and how you kind of like, you know, pass that on. Like how much of like faith you know what I'm saying is important for you, in like in general. Like
so you know, it's so funny because I was just talking to my daughter today, and my 19-year-old, and you know, she, you know, just having her little issues and stuff. And I'm always reminding her faith. But what is faith is believing in something that you can't see in that moment. And most of us, we want to see it to believe it, you know, like, you know, my bank account says nothing, you know, but God is more than a bank account, any dollar amount, you know what I'm saying? Because He can move in mysterious ways, you know? So even when you don't see a way, that doesn't mean that He's not working. You know, and faith is like, my grandmother always said it, like, faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. I'm like, what? Like, you can't move a mountain. What? Like, what are you talking about? And now that I'm 38 years old, I'm like, my faith is like the size of a basketball, not a mustard seed, you know? And because of everything I've been through, where I've kind of called on God and tested Him, and a lot of personal experiences in my life, which makes me even more fired up. Because I have homies that are like, man, how you going to believe in a God you've never seen? I'm like, I've never physically seen Him, but I've seen His work. I've seen Him bless other people in their situations, you know, and just listening to others and hearing testimonies, and then walking on faith, and then the door opens. And then you're like, oh, man, you see, this is why everyone needs to have a little bit. Right. You know, just think about a person that's going through a lot and they don't believe in a God, or they're not religious. You know, I got a few friends that are just, you know, atheists and just like, man, I don't believe in nothing. you know, and just, you know, just going through it. And I'd always like pray for them and just say like, man, like where do they turn to if they don't have anyone to turn to, you know? And that's why it's so important to have, you know?
Yeah. I think like recent conversation I've had is kind of what you said, right? It was like, you know, like someone who may not believe, right? And a lot of times we have different perspectives on it, right? You know, for some it's God, some it's the universe, some it's this energy, or whatever it may be. You know, like I believe in like signs and pathways that have been laid upon, like, you know what I'm saying, like that we're following, and you just got to read those signs. And some people think it's coincidences or whatever the wording is for it, but a lot of it is very similar.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's like goes back to just like self-awareness and understanding like what you are trying to learn yourself through this, right?
Oh yeah, and constantly growing.
Yeah, like through your path, you know, I've noticed like you've just kind of like just listened, paid attention. What the past was, what you were thinking, what you were saying, because those were being kind of laid for you, and that was kind of your purpose. And now it's like you living in purpose, man, and helping. You know what I'm saying? That's just
definitely,
you know, that's just like an amazing thing. And like even in a personal journey, man, like I feel the same way with what we're doing. You know, even being here right now, sharing these conversations, and people can kind of like tap in and understand more about you, us, me, what you're doing, and because. You know, a lot of it is so relatable. And, and I think people need to hear that too, and kind of get to know more about, you know, some of the leaders who are really helping kids and trying to really do some amazing things and set people up for the future, man. So like I give so much credit to you, man.
Oh, I appreciate
for
that.
What's going on.
You know and I give credit right back because for you and your platform to bless so many other, you know, small businesses and helping people launch their ideas and give them the support that they need. I mean, you're serving daily, you know, and, you know, all the stress behind that people don't see.
All the stress. And that's something that's very, very, like, very important. That's one of our main kind of, you know, missions as well. And so, but yeah, man, it's what we got to do.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? So we're always trying to help people, and that's what it's all about. And I think as we're growing, you know, we're trying to pass that on, and that's the goals.
Right,
that's the goal of it all, man. And you know, I just wanted, you know, obviously again, thank you.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying, for everything that, you know, you do for the kids. Definitely wanted to just like give you another, like, you know, give a little bit more about like anything else you want to say, you know what I'm saying, you know, with BWC personally or anything like that, man. Just kind of like, you know, where can they find you, and just kind of, you know, talk about all that.
No, definitely. Whoever's interested in checking out the program, it's BWC Hoopz with a Z. We're on Instagram. You can feel free to, you know, check out the page, follow if you like. Our website is bwchoopz.com. Man, and you know, I'm just a humble dude, man. My goal is not to be the best basketball trainer out here in the
Deverion Mackey.
Nah, you know, man, nah, definitely not about myself, man. I just love the game of basketball. Sure. I've learned a lot that has helped me evolve as a hooper, and it's got me where all these kids are trying to accomplish, like scholarships to college, you know, playing overseas, and you know, and just building healthy relationships, you know. And I want every hooper that's listening in to understand, like, just continue to work hard, develop the strongest work ethic possible, and work hard at your craft daily, you know, because when you do that, like, it will pay off, you know. And of course, keep your faith. And even if you don't have none, like, man, try to dig up a little, just a little bit, you know, because, you know, there is going to be times in your life where you're going to have to sit back and trust and have it, you know. Man, continue to be better than you were yesterday. You know, I always told myself that, and that helps with anxiety, because now you don't have all the pressure of, like, am I good enough? Like, as long as you can say, hey, man, I did a little bit more training than I did yesterday. You know, I might have scored 0 points in my last game, but today's a new day. You know, I tell my 10-year-old, don't beat yourself up, man. Like, you know, and remember I was telling you that story earlier. I had to apologize to him and told him, like, I'm going to shut my mouth. And I'm going to let you play the game and figure it out and just have fun. Like, I don't want you dribbling and being afraid to make a mistake. Because that's the wrong thing to teach a 10-year-old, you know, is to play in fear. You know, when I was playing, man, I didn't really have too many coaches yelling. They was just like, if you mess up, get back on defense.
Yeah.
Really, that's how basketball goes. If you miss a shot, just get your butt. You should be the first one back on defense, making sure your man doesn't score. You make up on the other end.
Right.
You know, and that's like just those life skills, man. Like if you mess up, man, you just get back.
Yeah.
Get back going. You get back up. You know,
like exactly. Like you know, my daughter, she was like, I feel like I'm not playing good today, Dad. Mm-hmm. You know, she was the first half, and then I was like, you know, don't worry about that play.
Yeah.
Worry about the next play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who cares about that? It's gone. It's over. It's gone.
Yeah.
You know, like what about we got 10 minutes left in the game? Why don't you go out there and when you go back in and like do something?
Right.
It's like, oh, you know. So like like you said, it's just like let's just try to keep it moving forward, man. Make one thing better.
Oh,
right?
man.
And that's the goal.
What it comes down to.
That's the goal, man. And, and I'm still trying to get through that, right?
Yeah,
so that's why, like, you know, every time we get to talk, man, I appreciate it. The you know, the faith and the energy and the, you know what I'm saying, the knowledge and just like, you know what I'm saying, the goodness
positive
about the
vibe,
game, man. The great things that the game of basketball teaches us.
Oh my gosh, man.
Beyond the 94 feet, man.
Oh, for sure.
So man, again, Deverion Mackey, BWC, again, man, good friend, you know, child of God, man, just kind of like it's one of the best people, man, I know. So,
man, I appreciate
thanks for
that,
making
man.
time for this, man, and
thank you for having me on, man.
Oh, for sure, man. This is just, you know, first of many.
Oh, definitely.
So everybody check him out. Again, appreciate you guys, man. This is it's been dope, man.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get back in the court soon.
Right, definitely.
You know what I'm saying, for these kids.
Definitely.
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right, cool. Appreciate you, man.